Within planned and preventive maintenance, condition-based maintenance is sort of the holy grail, but what exactly is it? Let's discuss that. Hello, I'm Tom. Welcome to my channel where we talk about continuous improvement in an industrial setting. And today we've got a really nice maintenance topic, which is condition-based maintenance. Now, there are a couple of different theories towards, how do you organize your maintenance? And this is an important one. The basic sort of philosophy to do it is to just wait until it breaks and then fix it. That might sound like a really old and absolutely useless thing, very expensive. That is not per se the case. In fact, most things you have, it might even be the best strategy if you pick it correctly. But that's maybe a topic for another video. This video is about types of planned maintenance. Now, how do you then plan that maintenance? Do you plan it just based on time? Do you plan it based on inspections to see if it's broken already? Do you plan it based on what it does in your machinery? Maybe time is a bit too broad. Maybe you say how many run hours that meter had, or how many thousands of products or cycles or something like that. There's all kinds of very nice ways to calculate them. And some of them, they really have their place. In fact, that is one of the big things to master if you really want to become good at planned maintenance. So the one that is based on inspections and how the part is doing, that is basically condition-based maintenance. You check the condition of the part on the machine, and when that drops below a certain threshold, then you replace it. Now, how can we think of this in a more visual way? Say we have a part that just stays at the same strength or thickness or quality or whatever. It performs very well over quite a good period of time, but at some point it just starts deteriorating. And when it's just deteriorating a little bit, that does not per se mean that your process gets damaged. So if one of your gearboxes is just getting a little bit of drag, or the gears in it are not as sharp as they once were, then what you may notice is maybe a little bit of slip, or maybe your energy usage goes up slightly, but the process still moves. So there's no direct problem that you can see in production. If it goes down too much, of course, at some point, it's just no longer fit for purpose. So you can imagine that there is sort of a point, and most parts are seriously over-engineered. So if they lose a bit, it's not a problem. But if they really lose out, at some point, you have a failure. But the thing is, if you let it hit the failure level, then, you have just messed up your production process. That is exactly what we're trying to prevent with planned maintenance. The whole idea is to not be replacing parts the whole time because it's very costly, but somehow to do replace them before they damage your process, because the production process is almost always a lot more expensive to stop than replacing the parts. Why hear that almost? Well, remember in the beginning of the video I said that for some parts actually just let them run out until they break and then replace them is the best. That is when that balance of disruption in the process, the actual production process, versus replacing it way too often, tips towards it's not that expensive to let this break down. In your main processes, that's almost never the case, but in many smaller processes, it might just be. But for condition-based maintenance, we assume that we're working with parts where if they stop the process, that process really is expensive. But we still don't want to be replacing it here and there again, because that would be too expensive in how often we replace it. So what we need to sort of put in place, and this is not something that the manufacturer will usually give you, but is some way to detect it here already. And so we need to get another line where we can detect it, so that if it hits this point, we know we have to replace it. Now, that means we do need to know quite a bit about our system. Condition-based maintenance is not easy to set up. The concept is easy, but actually doing it in practice requires you to do a lot of testing on your processes, knowing the parts, and also checking what your parts are doing under normal wear and tear. See, the goal that you want to put in place is that you sort of know how long you've got, and if we check, once every, half of this graph, here we would have said, oh, that's okay. So then the next detection will be, oh, it'll be at a failure. So when we put this in place, you also want to keep your detection frequency, so your inspection frequency, at least sort of within that time frame. Because if you detect it here, that is not a problem. But if you detect it here, then basically you've already failed. Right? Then it's probably the machine telling you and not your engineer, your technician doing the inspection. So we set up an inspection frequency that is sort of linked to how fast this drops. So that is a good sort of time width. Like this, we probably will pick it up here and definitely pick it up there. Now again, me drawing this on a piece of paper is very simple, and I've given presentations about this as well, and it's, when you discuss this with reliability engineers, the concept is not that hard. But to really put this in practice, you need a couple of prerequisites. The condition-based maintenance system is not per se the easiest. I would say it's one of the harder. There is the one that really is a bit harder is that where you check the condition of your parts based on your process output, which is also a really nice way, but it's sort of a version of this. So the way you do the detection might be to directly measure the part. So the strength of something, sort of difficult to measure. The thickness of a roller, that is quite easy to measure. But the strength of one of the parts, you're not gonna check that, right? Because that requires breaking it. You're not gonna break it here and there and there. So for these type of things, maybe it's the fit, maybe it's a little bit of wiggle room that you're testing, how much wiggle room, and we have some detection limit. But also maybe, for instance, with plungers, we look at the flight time, the extension and retraction time of the plunger. There is a load on it, it has to work, and when the internal stress, the internal strain gets so high that actually that is high relative to the load and it starts to move a bit slower, that is a great detection point as well. So many valves or plungers, extenders, they have this way where you can actually check it. So you don't measure the actual part itself, you measure how fast it works. How fast a valve opens is something many valves can actually measure. Many systems can sort of measure that time between starting the signal and the valve being in the other position. This is milliseconds usually, but if that jumps from something like 50 milliseconds to something like 100 suddenly, you drop below that detection range. Is this really a problem for the process? Often no, because the valves have to switch anyway and they will still reach their final location. But that is good for us, right? Because that means you have a bit of extra wiggle room. You know you have to replace it. So those type of things, that is all based on the condition of the part. What would be a simpler way, purely time-based, is when you know that this is roughly half a year. So we're just gonna replace it every 5 months or 6 months. If you know that this here is 7 to 8 months, you put it at 5 to 6. But then, if you don't use the machine so often, you could have done longer. If this was a bit of a bad part and this one drops out sooner. Right? So that's why we want to do condition-based. But those are the advantages. What do you need really? If you listen to the whole story, let's get those important points out. What you need is good data on your machine, the parts, the process, the know-how of how your parts behave. So what is the quality of the parts? How can we detect? How does it behave under stress? Things like that. That is a piece of know-how that you often will not even get from the original equipment manufacturer. And then you need to have those inspections. And with the inspections, of course, you need to be able to actually do them correctly, right? So if your technicians go to the line and say, yes, the valve is still in place, yes, the valve still 100% closes, but they don't know that they actually have to check for the flight time, the closure time, then you're not really doing the inspection that's needed. So this is quite a bit of engineering knowledge on your parts and process. That is not free. You have to invest time into this. You have to invest time to do trials, to understand the process, to look for good ways to do these tests and to do these inspections. But that also means that mastering this can give you a very good edge in the market. If you know how to do this better than your competitors, you will have lower costs and more reliable machinery. So you have a better chance of beating the market. You can put out the products anytime you want, and the cost will be a bit lower, which in a competitive market gives you a very serious edge. So if you want to make a nice bit of money with your company, you want to move to this condition-based maintenance. But because it does require that data, know-how, setting up good inspections, you also, again, have to think about, is it worth it? So when you have a planned maintenance work stream, a pillar, or just a good meeting with your reliability and process engineers, your engineering, your maintenance department, have that discussion and please also try to get some data under it. How much does it actually cost for certain parts to break out? How often do they break? So you sort of start with time-based. I would recommend you put most of your parts on time-based maintenance first, and then you go more into, okay, which parts are really the more expensive? Because if it's really expensive to replace them, you have a good reason to try to stretch that time until you need to replace them. And also, where is it easy? So when we look at the inspections, combine it with our know-how of the parts and the process, which things are easy to do? Like one of the examples here that is used quite often is to have a conveyor that it needs to be tightened a bit, right? The conveyor belt, it needs to have a little bit of wiggle room on the bottom, but not too much. So you put in place sort of a ruler with red, green, red, and then if that saggy part on the bottom of your conveyor is within the green, that's good, no tightening needed, no loosening needed. If that sags a bit too much, you have to either remove a link or you stretch up the chain a little bit more, but you do sort of maintenance. This is not yet replacing it, but this is doing maintenance based on quite an easy measurable parameter of what you can see. The same also goes for when do we really need to replace it. So what stretch is enough to really say, okay, stop, we'll just fully replace it. Or I've worked with a packaging factory where we have rollers pushing down on the plastic to close the lids into so that the packaging and then a set of rollers to apply labels to it. It's a relatively standard type of process, but what we noticed is that these rollers, they needed to have a certain thickness. When they were 55 millimeters wide, all okay, those were new rollers. They needed to be about 53, 52. Under 52, they would start giving us trouble. So it was just a weekly inspection, very simple calipers to the roller. If it's over 53, we don't do anything. As soon as it hits 53 or below, we put in a work order for maintenance and they would replace it within a week or so. Very simple system. So even though those rollers were cheap, the inspections were even cheaper. The know-how came out of a Kaizen improvement team, so that was an easy fix. But much of your machinery, many parts that you have, this is not yet available. This is something as a plant maintenance pillar or as an engineering department you want to work towards. Until that time, use time-based maintenance mainly, a little bit of run to fail, but know that this exists, that you can really do it in a simple way for some parts. For others it will be more difficult, but do not let that stop you. to already implement it for those parts of your machinery where you can do it, where the barriers, so to say, for condition monitoring, condition inspection, that they are not so high and you have an easy payoff. So I hope that that gave you a bit more insight on what we actually mean with condition-based maintenance and why it's not always the best option, but it is a very good one to look into, to sort of strive for with more and more processes as your maturity in the maintenance department and maintenance management systems grows. This is something you want to grow towards as well. Now, if you like the video, don't forget to hit that like button, and also let me know, engineers, what type of concepts have you sort of encountered within Lean or within Performance Excellence, Continuous Improvement, TPM, that you heard about it, but you don't know if it's right for you? Write me a comment. I'll be happy to explain what it is, why it is there, and what are sort of the reasons for you to see, are we going to try it in our factory or not? For now, I wish you the best of luck setting up your plant maintenance, and as always, don't forget to also enjoy the continuous improvement journey.